Where No Man Has Gone Before. Hello, Steve Arts 89, Trek Way 89 for Steve Arts 89. I was planning a anniversary marathon of the whole original series of Star Trek. It was going to start on Sunday, which was the 8th, although technically it wouldn't really be the 8th or the night of the 8th until the next day, really, in America because of the time difference. But I was going to start watching it, and then I got sick. I was sick all day. I ended up not getting up until like 9 p.m. and I didn't really want to start the show in the middle of the night. So I just watched the pilot, the Cage, and the next day I was going to start watching the show again. Was sick again, sick all day. Didn't actually do anything until probably about the same time, around 9 p.m. And then I didn't want to start the show late at night, so I just ended up watching the second pilot on its own, which was an interesting experience, watching the pilots on their own, very much as separate, movie events. Which I've done that more so with the Cage than when No One Has Gone Before. But it's interesting to see the two together. You can see the production similarities, which you don't really notice a lot of those things when you see the Cage in the menagerie in the original series instead of watching the Cage. Or even you watch the Cage and then there's like a gap. But when you watch the Cage and When No One's Gone Before, you can see, the continuation of the production where they basically they filmed a pilot. The studio wasn't happy with elements of it, so either they asked or the studio suggests, hey, why don't we do it again, but this time with more action and romance. And someone, I'm guessing Desilu, gave them the money for a second pilot. They made it, and the studio was the network was like, yep, that's what we want. We want a fist fight and a sexy lady. And they kind of didn't even notice the cerebral stuff, which was kind of Gene's plan. Let's just bury the cerebral in amongst the fist fights and the sexy ladies, and the studios and the censors won't notice it, but the fans will. So that's sort of what happened with the second pilot. But it is good. It's well shot. It's amazing to look at it on Blu-ray with the quality it is. It does mean you can see some things which I'm like, oh my god, my whole life I've been watching that episode, that scene, that effect. I never could see how they did it, and now I can see it. It's like there really should be a budget for fixing special effects in old TV shows, effects that wouldn't have shown on the original screens back in the day that didn't have to worry about, but now in Blu-ray and high definition does show. It's really unfair to the filmmakers. So that's a little technical thing, but the story itself is great. I mean, you have this big science fiction idea of a man becoming a god, but then they personalise it and make it, the best friend of the captain. Had Gary Lockwood in. He had just either started filming or been signed up to do, I don't think he'd done 2001, but he did this sort of as a favour to, I think, the casting agent or someone. And he had a hell of a time, though, with the lenses and everything. But it looks amazing, and they did a good job of that, although the special effects shots don't look good at the eyes, but the practical ones do look amazing. And that first shot that they light with that sound as it goes to the dark and the eyes are glowing, it is chilling. It still is chilling. It still gave me goosebumps when I watched it this time. Always has. But yeah, the story's good, the production's good, the actors are good. You can see how they evolved from the Cage to the original series, but they still weren't quite there. They'd moved a couple of actors in, but then they sort of changed their roles. And a lot of people comment on this and use this to justify inconsistencies later in canon. And like, they were establishing it. Once it's established canon, that's what it is. You can't go back and change stuff. But you can set it up in the first place. And they were doing that in the first couple of pilots, and you can forgive them that. But when you're 30, 50, 40, 50 years into a franchise and several series into a show, you can't be changing things and not knowing, what should happen or who is what. And so canon violations and inconsistencies, there's no excuse for it in New Trek and later shows. But James R. Kirk, he didn't have a middle name. They gave him a middle name later and forgot they'd already called him R. Kirk in the pilot. They considered fixing that effects-wise. I was very disappointed to hear that Denise Okada didn't want to do it. They ran out of budget anyway, but she didn't want them to do it. She felt it should be kept because that was a mistake that the character made because he didn't actually know James's middle name. I'm like, no, that was a production mistake and they should have fixed it because it's glaring to everyone else. But yeah, we'll see. But I watched the remastered version, of course. The effects were good. I also did skip through and watch the original shots because there are only a few, just to remind myself what the original ones look like and so forth. And there's only one that varies, and could be questioned, but either way, the second part's amazing. It sold the series finally. The Cage sold the series, but a couple of things changed, and then the studio was second guessing, and they basically, someone said, let's do another pilot because we know you want this series. The series is going to work, and it did, and they sold it, and it was great, and I do love it, and it does sort of ease into the 5-year mission. There's a year difference between Where No One's Gone Before and the Corbomite Maneuver, so they've had a year to basically settle in. And I always look at it as the pilot was 64, the first episode was 65, and they ran till 69. So they got 5 years. We had a 5-year mission. We had 5 years of the show, or four seasons in a way, because we had a year that we didn't see on air. We saw the pilot, and then we also saw the Cage, and we saw that within the show. So I don't always feel that shortchanged, and I like that it was open-ended, and we just went on to the next adventure, and there was no big ending like they did with Star Trek Continues and stuff like that. So I just want to do a little review of this pilot on its own, because I'm not going to do a review of every episode. I will at some point, just for the fun of it. But at the moment, I just want to marathon through and just watch all the episodes, just as many as I can per day, and really, indulge myself in Star Trek for a few days. And I haven't been able to do it because I've been sick for the last 2 days, and now I've got to do something tonight. And I don't know. I think I'm going to watch the first few episodes actually in the proper production order, and then maybe after that, because you've got to swap the discs around, then I'll go from then onwards. But either way, I'm still sort of celebrating this the 50th anniversary of Star Trek and the 60th anniversary of The Cage and the original production. But yeah, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of When No One's Gone Before. Is it superior to The Cage? On one level, yes. On one level, no. They do throw in the fist fights and the sexy ladies to sell it to the studio, but the story's still there. The heart's still there. The characters are still there. But there is that little bit of extra dumbing it down for the masses that Gene had to do with every episode and had to do with the series that he totally refused to do when he got to the motion picture, which is why some people struggle with it, because they're expecting the Star Trek TV show on the big screen and not for it to actually have been changed or adapted or anything, or they didn't really appreciate what the original vision was. And then by the time we got to Next Generation, they found like a middle ground between the sort of studio middle ground and his original sort of idea. So it's interesting, it works. I'm still talking, I'm going to go. Bye. Something else I forgot to mention. There is on the Blu-rays, I'm not sure it was on the original DVD, but on the Blu-rays you do actually get the original pilot version of the episode, which was quite different in format. They had a longer scene at the start where Gary's checking out women as he's walking down the corridor, and they had, I think, the credits over those scenes instead of an actual title sequence. And they had chapter, each section after the ads began with like chapter 1, chapter 2, stuff like that, and the text was different, and just a few little things, basically just format differences that they changed when they went into the series the next year, and they edited the pilot to be consistent with the rest of the episodes. And it's just interesting to watch. I watched that, and also you have the original effects in that one as well, because I watched the remastered one of the other one. But I had to comment on that because I watched that as well on its own, and that also makes it interesting to watch the two pilots together again as their own little sort of double production, as opposed to When No One's Gone Before being a part of the series or the start of the series. But again, I'm still talking. I'm going to go. Bye.